So, welcome all, master students, PhD students, people all around the world that came to hear the A Place, part of the A Place team, speaking about a placemaking activity that is a confined place. So now I give the word to my colleague Irene Aparicio, who coordinates the A Place team in Lisbon. Irene, you are the host now, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Ivan. Welcome to everyone. Thank you for to the students who agree to be with us tonight, also in this class, open class, and thank you to our colleagues of A Place project. I'm going to present them shortly. So I'm going to say some words about their profiles. So we have here with us Dr. Leandro Madrazo from Barcelona, which is the A Place project coordinator. He is a full professor and director of the research group ARC Engineering and Architecture in La Salle, Universitat La Salle, since its creation in 1999. He graduated with a degree in architecture from the Polytechnic University of Catalonia in 1984. And later he studied as Fulbright Scholar in the Master of Architecture programs at Harvard University and the University of California, Los Angeles, where he obtained a master's degree in this area. So from 1999 to 1999, he carried out his teaching and research work in the Department of Architecture in Zurich, where he obtained his PhD also. His teaching focused on the integration of architecture, theory and representation, art and media, as well as on housing studies and design methodology. Among other research projects, he has coordinated several projects, including housing at 29 EU in 2003 year. So he coordinated also Wacodoms, Wyconet, and another project, ProHabit, and is now coordinating this project A Place. Then we have also Luisa Bravo from Bologna, Italy. Luisa is a global academic scholar and educator. She's also social entrepreneur and public space activist. She holds a master 5-year degree in architectural engineering and a PhD in building and territorial engineering, both from the University of Bologna in Italy. She has more than 15 years of experience in the professional field as urban planner and designer, with a specific focus on public space. Her expertise is grounded in intensive academic postdoctoral research and teaching in Italy and Europe, the United States, Middle East, Asia, and Australia. She has a long CV. If you want to see more about this member of the project, you can see also the information on A Place project on the site of A Place project. Now we have also Teresa Turves from Nicosia, Cyprus. Teresa completed her graduate studies in architecture at MIT and her bachelor's at Nottingham Trent University. As a practicing architect and adjunct lecturer, she has been researching the notion of collaboration in urban dynamics in relation to the design and understanding of public space. This has led in developing design methodologies which concern dynamic and collaborative process in design teaching. Research project, she has been involved in focus on the role of public space in social sustainability with project in Cyprus, Greece, Spain, Lebanon, Italy, Japan, and Bhutan. Since 2009, she has taught courses and workshops in universities in Cyprus, Greece, Bhutan, and Lebanon. In 2014, she established the series of workshops called Sindishes. I think it's yes, Sindishes, focus on learning through making, developing one-to-one interventions using low-tech fabrication methods in public spaces in rural villages in Cyprus. As a practicing architect, she has worked in Paris, Boston, and Cyprus. In 2004, she established her own practice in Nicosia, where with a large number of completed projects. So I think those are our invited communicators for today. If you want, as I said before, if you want to say more about them, please go to the site of A Place and you'll find more information about these scholars and these members of our project. And now I will give the word to our coordinator of A Place project, Leandro Madrasso. Welcome to everyone and have a good session.
Hey, thank you very much, Irene, Ivone, for the initiative to organize this this event. I think it's a very good opportunity to share our work with your students, students from art, from communication. So I think the idea that it fits very well with the spirit of our project, which is very multidisciplinary, touches on issues that have to do with many fields: architecture, art, filmmaking, communication, publicity, etc. So I think it's a very good opportunity to contrast our work and our findings with your students and get also hopefully some feedback in the session at the end. So let me share the screen and I will show you the program that we have for today. So a confined place is the topic or the activity we would like to focus today is one of the activities we have developed in this A Place project. And we would like to focus mainly on this issue of creation and communication in times of lockdown. So basically the program we have prepared for these 2 hours is this one here. So we have first a very short introduction to the project, and then we will explain in more detail the program A Confined Place, which is composed of 3 parts, each one with a different kind of media. The first one with photography, which I will explain myself, present myself. The second one has to do with mixed media and an open call that it was organized by Teresa and Veronica from Urban Gorillas, one of the partners of A Place. And the third one will be about filmmaking, a short film competition organized by City Space Architecture, and Luisa will present this work. This will take around 1.5 hours. So then we'll have like a half an hour for discussion. And in this block there will be also a presentation from 2 students from Nova who participated in the work about photography. And they will explain the sense of place and discuss and share that experience with us here. And then also we'd like to talk about issues like the new spaces that can be created in times of lockdown to foster creativity, like the examples we will show. And also how our artistic expression changes or change in the time of lockdown. And for these topics, we would like to have also your questions. So the final block at the end, the word will be yours. We will be ready for answering questions or discussing with you. And then at the end, the closing. So let's start with A Place project. So A Place is, the title is Linking Places Through Network Artistic Practices. This is a large cooperation project co-funded by the Creative Europe program, which started in 2019, and it will last 4 years. So the purpose of A Place is to carry out art-based activities integrated in the community with the purpose of exploring and reinforcing the bonds between people and spaces. And in these activities participate residents, passers-by, tourists, also community leaders, artists and creators, students and faculty from different universities and studies, and also cultural agents. The partners of the project are 9 partners, 9 organizations from 6 European countries. Basically, there are 3 types of partners. There are higher education institutions, there are multidisciplinary groups working with communities, and cultural agencies. So the universities are 4, as you can see here. One of them is your university. We have 3 schools of architecture, plus the Faculty of Social and Human Sciences from Universidade Nova de Lisboa. We also have 3 multidisciplinary groups that work with communities in kind of activities like placemaking. They are from Belgium, Slovenia, and Cyprus. And we have 2 cultural agencies which are specialized in film and video art, which are Screen Project from Barcelona and City Space Architecture from Bologna. So this is the consortium. And now let me go through the topics, through the contents, and what are we doing here from the conceptual point of view in this project. And as the title, as the name of the project indicates already, place, it's a key issue here in this project, the concept of place from a contemporary perspective. We create and use public spaces, but we live in places, as this classical book from Tuan reminded us from 1977. Space is more abstract than place. What begins as an indifferentiated space becomes place as we get to know it better and do it with value. So through the activities that we do in public space, all of us, anything we do, walking, driving a vehicle, meeting with people, participating in any event for leisure or for political reasons, even in a flash mob, all of these are activities that make links with the public spaces. That means we create places in this way through the activities we do in public space. The creation of a place involves individual aspects, but also has also a collective dimension. So of course, it's an individual issue to create a place because it involves our senses, our perception, all of the senses, but also our imagination. Because when we are in a place, in a space, when we create these connections, we are not only thinking about what we have in front of our eyes, where our body is, but also in our mind, other experiences we have had in other places that maybe we associate with the one we have, and also memories we have from other places. So our imagination also works in the creation of places. Places transcend the personal sphere because it's a collective creation. All of us create places individually, but together we create a network of locations and meanings that we refer to as public space. This concept of space as a network is proposed by Martina Löw in this book, The Sociology of Space, and she defines that as a space as a relational arrangement of living beings and social goods. That means of material and immaterial elements. And this is precisely what we want to do in this project, to create a network of places that constitute space, including physical and digital locations, spaces, network of places that influence each other. Graphically, that's what we plan to do, or we are doing actually already in this project, to create this network that connects cities across Europe, locations, but also meanings that people give to these places in the different locations, and also actors, different actors that participate in the creation of places. And this means not only citizens, but also artists, community leaders, etc. So we are trying to, we are doing because it's already 1.5 years of this project. And we are going to show you now some of the examples of the previous year. So we are exchanging meanings, exchanging knowledge across these cities, across these locations, in order to create a sense of place that goes beyond territories and cultures, and also beyond the physical and boundaries by incorporating the digital space into our activities. Why do we do this? Why the topic of place is so relevant for us today? Today, we are all experiencing contradictory phenomena. On the one hand, we feel that the bonds between people and spaces are no longer fixed and stable as we think they were, but rather they are fluid and in a continuous change. There's also the fragmentation of our societies in multiple cultural groups due to massive migration waves, to styles of working, and also to the extensive use of digital technologies. All of this is changing our original sense of place. There are a diversity of practices, which include not only architecture, but also art, planning, sociology, and other disciplines which are aware of these changes in the sense of place, and they are trying to intervene in order to, in the case of architecture, to define spaces, public spaces that fit to these characteristics of our societies today, this mobile, transient sense of place. And that's exactly what we try to bring our project in this, through activities like placemaking, for example, that intersect also with others like tactical urbanism, performative urbanism, other activities that can take place in a transversal way in public space. We try to do activities that really reveal the meaning that people give to spaces, to places, and through that, come out with suggestions, ideas, proposals to increase the sense of place, the sense of belonging of people in the spaces they live in. The activities we do in the project are divided into three kinds, which actually they intersect very much. But nevertheless, we try to describe it in this way with these three categories. We have placemaking interventions in public space, which could be in physical and digital space. We also have art productions. That means artworks that in themselves, they are able to generate place. For example, screening videos or in a public space. The process of making a photographic reportage in public space, installations. All of these are artistic creations that in themselves, they are transforming and creating places beyond, beyond the actual artwork. And we also have activities that take place within festivals. And we have 3 festivals that are part of the project: Loop Barcelona, Urban Visions in Bologna, and Pami Kaimakli in Nicosia. So we have, in the first year of the project, we have developed a large number of activities, placemaking activities in all the cities. And they are listed here, activities that have to do with engaging students and residents, or have to do with events that take place in public space, multicultural events, or a parklet in Bologna, all different kind of different activities that have been taking place in different times during this first year. All of them are here recorded and available for you to visit in our website. And this is the direction of the website that we invite you to take a look. And in particular, we'd like to invite you to, since you are here, and this is an activity we have started this week. If you click here on participate, you will go to this environment. You are kindly invited to participate. And how? Telling us which is your favorite place, the place where you have a favorite positive experience, or all the opposite, a place that you have experience with, which is brings a negative connotation to you, or also places which have both this double meaning, positive and negative for you. And those of you who are involved in artistic productions, you can also participate by sharing your work. You have made an installation in public space, or you are doing something in public space, you can also share your work in this website. So you are kindly invited to visit it and to just participate and send us and share your experiences about places in any city, in any place you have experience with. Okay, so a confined place was one of these activities that we developed last year. And this happened because as we started the project, precisely in March last year, we were starting with the first activities, then the lockdown came to all the countries at the same time. Therefore, we had to react in a pragmatic way to say, what do we do now? We cannot go to the public space as we thought. So what can we do now in the project only with digital media? And we came out with these three activities. One based on educational settings. This was the photographic representation of space in the time of confinement. This was done mainly by students of architecture and art in La Salle and also in Nova. The second program of activities we developed in these 3 months from March to June were artistic interventions with hybrid media. There was an open call organized by Urban Gorillas. And the third one was a short film competition on the films representing the city in times of confinement. And that was done as a third activity. All of that was very much improvised, as everything that happened in that time. To many of us, we have to react to the unexpected situation of the outbreak of the COVID. And that's how we did this Confined Place program. Now, let me go into the first part of the program, which has to do with photographic representation of the domestic and public space in times of confinement. And this was an initiative of our School of Architecture La Salle, and we counted with the collaboration of NOVA and also other partner institutions. So the pedagogic program we developed in this very short time in March, April, had these objectives. To introduce students of architecture to some fundamental aspects of photographic medium and the relationship to perception and representation of architectural space. To reflect on the capacity of photographs to capture a sense of place, particularly in the time of confinement. To perceive and communicate the experience of living in the confinement through photographic media. And finally, to share the experience and the works on a public media like a blog. So we followed this sequence of learning activities, and this was the results. We started by asking students to read some basic texts about the meaning of place. And by reading these texts, we asked them to create a vocabulary of concepts. These are architecture students from the third year program. Then we asked them to choose and describe and interpret photographs from other photographers that we selected. And then afterwards, we asked them to summarize the ideas they read and the ideas they got from the images to propose a series of themes about the meaning of place represented by photography. With this background, then we moved into the exercise of photographing your space during the confinement. The photographs that we're going to see now. So step by step, this work we did, it was basically this one. First, to create a vocabulary, as we can see here. We did that with a learning environment we developed in our own research group, which is called Art Class. And with this environment, the students created and defined and proposed key concepts that have to do with the idea of place, liminality, placelessness, non-place, topophilia, and others. They describe these concepts with their own words. They share this vocabulary. We discussed this vocabulary. All of this was done online. We were not allowed to step out of our houses in that time. Then we gave them a collection of photographs from different authors, all of them dealing somehow with the idea of place and place representation. And we asked them just to describe and interpret the photographs. And this is the exercise that the students did. They pick up, they selected the photograph they wanted to describe, and they did a description with their own words, with their own knowledge, bringing their own references. Based on the vocabulary and the description of the photographs, then they went a step forward and they described themes with a collective work, with all the photographs, all the vocabulary words, all the interpretations done by the whole class. this was shared through the learning environment. So it was no longer an individual work, but a collective work. And we gave them this template and we asked them select 3 photographs from different students and read the interpretation that the student did. And then here at the bottom, write a theme that is just represented by these 3 photographs from different authors and interpreted by different students. This is a very complex reflection exercise because you have to really read and understand, see and understand also, because it's not only about reading, it's also about seeing photographs, and then come up with your own topic, with your own theme. And the result was things like that. So the topic here was attachment. As you can see here, there are 3 photographs from different photographers and interpreted by 3 different students. And a 4th student, the one who is here in the upper corner, describe what these 3 photographs and interpretations have in common. All of them, in a way, talk about attachment in different ways. Another example is engagement as a topic. And again, we have here 3 photographs from different photographers, 2 of them, interpreted by 3 different students, and the topic proposed by a 4th student. And finally, after all of this was discussed in the classrooms that we had, in the online lectures, in the critiques and the reviews that we had with the students on individual basis also, then we moved into the final part of the program, which was to photograph your own place. They were very nice works, as you can see here, made by students from Nova, like this one, and also from La Salle, where the value of this work in that time is that all of us were sharing the same confinement in different cities all over the world, but all of us with the same experience. This was a very unique moment because it was a global situation, a real global sense of place. In a very unfortunate situation, there was this one of being enclosed in our homes. But in this context, in these conditions, it was very easy for us to share this experience because all of us were feeling the same. The question was how to give expression to the same feeling. The photographs are very different. Also the words and the personal experiences. But the common situation was the same. Here, Ariuna explained how the home was transformed into a home inside a home with a family. Other students explained how their homes changed into a working place, into a leisure place, or into a classroom. All the information, all the books, the computer, everything over the table. So the university was brought inside the home. We also developed a new sensitivity to our indoor spaces, probably many of us. We had more time to contemplate how light goes through the window, something that maybe in a daily routine we don't pay attention to. We also were aware of what happened outside our homes, in the public spaces, and felt the absence of people, the absence of activity. All of us had that experience of looking to empty cities, empty playgrounds, empty courtyards, missing something. We wonder if we look at photographs like this one now, 1 year later, and we ask ourselves, what is the meaning of this photograph? It's probably very different to the meaning that the student gave to it at the moment of taking this photograph 1 year ago from the home being enclosed. This makes a very interesting thing to think about what is the value of the photograph? Is the value in the photographic medium itself or in the context, or both? Outside of the context of 1 year, this image has another value. Maybe it has lost some of the original value it had 1 year ago. Maybe now it's like a testimony of something that happened and is no longer there in our current experience. We also look at the roofs and balconies, how they were rediscovered, new activities, exercising, running in the terraces here, as this photograph was capturing. We also discovered these threshold spaces, the in-between spaces between domestic and public realms, the windows, the balconies, the bay windows, and people showing up from inside the home towards the outside space. There was a new sense of collectivity, a new way of creating ties between places in that time. It's also a word from a student from Nova, Diego, who I think he will explain later himself. All of this work was collected and public after the end of the semester in this blog, which is now still accessible for you to visit. Okay, so this was the first part, the first block of the Confined program, which have to do with photography. There are two more blocks, and now the next one will be presented by Teresa Torbas from Urban Gorillas, and it has to do with the open call about mixed media that was done after we finished with photography. So Teresa, it's your time.
Hi. So as Leandro was introducing before, this part was part of the project which took place online using social media. At a time when we were planning our yearly activities, suddenly one after the other, all the European cities were starting to close down, going into lockdown. And we obviously planning the activities came to a standstill, and we started to see whether there was another way of doing this, whether there was another way of addressing and talking about community and connection at a time when in fact placemaking or public space was not only unsafe but also illegal in a way. So how do you address this idea of community building when you cannot be part of a physical space? Is it still possible to discuss this? Was one of the first questions that we were having. Sorry, so the open call, which took place in the middle of April in 2020, it capitalized on the idea of the openness of the social media. So it would give a ground not only to artists and placemakers and photographers, filmmakers, but also to a wider public who was indeed in search for a creative outlet and a platform to show this new experience that we were going through on a global scale. As I was preparing for this lecture and looking back at the photographs and the films submitted, it was quite fascinating for me how to see how all these images were eventually normalized in just over a year, and how we who might come from completely different places in the world are now connected through these series of shared experiences. And the image that we're looking at now is by Hayal Gezer. It's called A Normalized Place. And I think we've all experienced this image and this idea. So we're stepping into this with this idea of confinement and of a shared experience. The open call was announced on social media, and it was calling for recordings, new readings, and activities about a sense of place during the new profound time of confinement. The call was going to be open for 6 weeks. It collected 98 entries on Facebook and 45 on Instagram. Submissions came from 20 countries from Europe and beyond. And it really opened up to a very diverse crowd, ranging from artists, filmmakers, dancers, musicians, photographers, placemakers, and everyday people. There was two themes, two very distinct categories: a rediscovered place, a recording of the new reality as the lockdown reinvented the home as a host of many activities and in many cases, many users. while in other cases created opportunities to connect to neighbors and the city through balconies, gardens, and rooftops. A reimagined place examined the idea of community through its transformation and reinterpretation of relationships in social, digital, and networked space. The open call had 3 selected works in each category, which were awarded monetary awards. And the criteria that was used for was initially the capacity to artistically express the sense of place and the sense of connection during confinement in a particular media. The potential for a performed action to transform physical and social space during time of confinement, and the social impact of the action and its capacity to reinforce ties between the community. The project also used Yes, the project used the format of the name of a place, where each project was named according to a thought or a feeling or a sensation which was taking place at the time. And as we'll see later on, the projects were categorized under 5 main themes: a recording of the transfer of activities from public to private domain, the aesthetics of the empty city, the use of technology as an expansion or replacement for the public sphere, new ways of socializing, interacting, and playing, and new readings of systems and networks and strategies which we begin to observe in space. And what we see here is a clip from a video, a dance performance, and Everyone's Place, which was awarded 2nd place in the first category. It's very interesting because it featured dancers from France, Switzerland, Spain, UK, Germany, the USA, Canada, and Romania, which created one dance performance about the lockdown. And it was a very humorous and very joyful performance using the cover version of Come Together by the Beatles and addressing or touching into a human aspect that we were all missing and looking for at this time of confinement. Second project that I'm showing here is A Safe Place, an entry which came very early on from Hong Kong. It was activating the rooftop, engaging a sense of smell, and as Leandro mentioned earlier on, this dampening of other senses and the noise and the speed in which things were happening suddenly took on a different capacity and a different sense of heightened senses. So this new landscape, which is found on a rooftop, which engages the smell of the freshly washed clothes, suddenly becomes the safe place that Dorothy Lee was looking for. A relieved place, Gaetano De Rosa. He states, while I was staring at the void out of the window, a bubble passed by in the air. I looked out and I saw a mother, child, and their hope blown away. And I think these are all images that we all began seeing and we can all connect to. And I think this is really quite fascinating in terms of the period that we've been through. Walter J.P., A Canvas Place, in between places of public and private realms and moments of connection, using the sky as a canvas. A Sliced Space, A Sliced Place by Yahal Gezer. It was a brief moment of having come outdoors to take out the garbage, and I couldn't help but notice this slice of sky above me. It feels as if lately that's all we are getting, slices of sky, slices of lives, slices of freedom. A Window Place by Marina Papadakis. I see the exterior, but understand the interior is what I seek. The window, mainly during the confinement, became my best friend, not because I look outside, but because I can let my thoughts flow, imagine and reimagine. Petul Pekerp, A Quarantine Place examines the notion of home office and how this redefines the domestic realm. A Habits Place by Marina Papadakis. This was awarded the 3rd prize. The video produced of personal notes, assumptions, and creations during the time of confinement. It's really quite a fascinating video, and I think looking back at it now, we've all come to moments of dilemma of how to enter the home, how to drop off our things which was coming in from the outside, and how we become somebody else as we enter our homes during this time of confinement. A Claustrophobic Place. This idea of climbing the wall, of pushing off the ceiling, of pushing the sense of claustrophobia that's growing day by day. A Strategic Place by Irini Grigoriou. Again, this is really quite interesting, addressing this idea of strategy, of these 2x2 square meters, which starting to look like a big game of chess. And this idea of game and interpretation of play and of strategy is a theme that we see in a few of the projects, where here we have A Playful Place by Marina Chiriacu, a catalogue of games of flying urban places, where balconies are small strips of private places suspended over public space, rooftops, open elevated places on top of private properties, and windowsills are gateways from the private to the public. It's a booklet of games that people can play during the time of confinement, where they would engage with their neighbors. Sophie Thiel and Miriam Kuller, for a Reimagined Place category. A Social Place, again, interpreting this idea of the 2-meter distance and how we can begin to create a social place where we can fight isolation and loneliness and interact, maintaining a safe distance. How do we rebuild trust in the appropriation and usage of public space? Social spots are placed in a 2x2 meter distance and create a platform for performance, for discussion, for getting together again. And Johannes Muggiger, for the category A Reimagined Place, is a playful and fragmentary online archive. It's a www place where the digital archive collected all of the exhibitions that were closed, cancelled, or postponed during the pandemic. And by zooming in, you can re-enter these exhibitions. All of these projects are on the website for the Confined Place, and we invite you to, it's on the social media, I'm sorry, of A Confined Place, which you can see on Facebook and Instagram. And we would like to invite you to come in and have a look.
Yes, I will be presenting you the outcomes of this short film competition, A Confined Urban Vision, that we launched in June last year. City Space Architecture, as a partner of A Place, is promoting the International Film Festival Urban Visions Beyond the Ideal City, that we actually completed just last week ago. And this was supposed to take place in November, and it was postponed because of the lockdown in Italy, and also because theaters and cinemas closed in November last year. So we postponed the festival, and the competition, A Confined Urban Vision, was actually anticipated to 2020. And we then disseminated contents of this competition on this brand new streaming platform, visioniurbane.stream, which is still available. And you can actually see the overall selection of short films for this festival that were more than 1,300. But for the A Confined Urban Vision, actually, we wanted to investigate a clear focus on human life during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, as I said, the competition was published in June, and the deadline for submission was September 30th last year. We wanted to understand how the pandemic generated the impact at the human level in terms of isolation, loneliness, helplessness, and fear. So actually, this competition was intended to investigate different places and locations by inviting filmmakers to give us feedbacks regarding what they were experiencing during the confinement, and how actually the confinement was defining the essential role of urban publicness for the functioning of cities and societies. So we were at that time trying to rethink human existence, and if you remember, during that period last year, that was the summer, there were a lot of discussions, and also I attended many events online regarding the future of public space, and many were addressing the new normal, or the next normal. So not just what we were experiencing during the lockdown period, but also envisioning the recovery period. And so the competition was interested to explore these two different dimensions. The lockdown that forced us to stay indoor without mostly going out, and how they envision the future after lockdown. Since the competition was international, we received more than 330 submissions from more than 50 countries. And so we selected 42 short films from 19 countries. And the competition was assigning first prize award, 2 honorable mentions, and an audience award. We engaged as jurors our partners from A Place, as you can read here, and we also invited Colin Fournier, an art curator, also emeritus professor at the Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL in London. We had an online award ceremony since in December theaters and cinemas were still closed in Italy, so everything happened online. And the video is available on A Place YouTube channel. So we assigned first prize award to Quarantine Mood by Alessandro Marinelli, and this film was actually documenting how life was taking place on rooftops in Torpignatara neighborhood in Rome. It is depicting, you can read on the right the motivation of the jury, so why the jury decided to assign the first prize award to this film. And on the left, you can read the synopsis from the director. So it was really very poetic way to describe a moment of of fear and loneliness and distress, because we were experiencing a lot of frustration during that period. So this film, it's difficult for me now to talk about films while I'm showing you just some still photos from films. So that's why I included also descriptions so that you can figure out, contents of this film. So this film was actually moving those bad feelings that we were all experiencing at that time into a different level, in a kind of romantic setting also, of someone who is just looking around and trying to look some public life, public engagement with people actually occupying these unexpected semi-public spaces, rooftops, balconies, terraces, and starting to interact with these people while they were, talking, dancing, resting, and it was really very emotional. This other film got a mask for everyone, got an honorable mention because it was depicting the efficient work of a group of people in Germany, working with refugees from Somalia and Syria in order to create those masks for everyone. Since, during the pandemic, there was this sense of solidarity among people. And so there was this intention to actually do something to help others. So in a kind of generosity that was clearly depicted in this film. The other honorable mention was Gone, that is an experimental documentary on an empty city of Oslo in Norway. And it is a very vibrant documentary, which is actually questioning our role as individuals, human beings and citizens living in cities. The sound of this experimental documentary is also giving this sense of weight that everyone felt at that time when all cities were completely empty. And I was actually watching a lot of videos also on YouTube on that period of empty cities all over the world. And so this was really hard to see, because we were longing to go out and go back to our normal life. And then we had an audience award. This one, it was nice to give this award because actually this went to a young Italian guy, Domenico Agosto, a teenager, that made this film as a reaction to the pandemic in order to actually document his own life during the confinement. For this presentation, I would like just to highlight some of the aspects that actually came out very clearly from all these short films. So this transfer of activities from public to private domains. I have selected here three short films, and as you can interrelation between public and private actually was also related to the emptiness of cities and also on the use of a virtual platform. And last year I think the majority of the world population at some point discovered that everything was possible by using Zoom or Teams or WebEx and all these platforms that were able to connect all of us in this media space that was, somehow replacing the real physical public space. And so those feelings of being stuck at home, waiting for this second part of the quarantine that we all hoped to be the new normal, the next normal, and that we're still actually waiting to see when this will happen. But all these feelings of people stuck at home and doing these multiple activities, eating, sleeping, using the computer, watching outside, trying to establish social relationships, and experiencing different kind of feelings was a mix of all these different and overlaid activities. Those two films, for example, were opening into the dimension of dream and imagination. This summary is a very short film, which is actually a dream of going out during the summer and experience, the gentle breeze from the sea, while actually using just a ventilator inside the bedroom. And the other one, the view from Copacabana, is actually a dialogue between this woman and her neighbors that are just standing at the balcony in the facing building, and they are exchanging messages of hope, and they write each other, "This will all pass." If you remember last year, this was also one of the most common sentences. Everything will be all right, we will make it, this is just a period. In Italy also we were used to say this many times. Also, love in times of COVID was one of the topics of this competition, and on the left, Can It Wait was about a couple living one separated in their own apartments and thinking about each other, and if the other was taking care of this relationship or not because of this detachment, while the other one, claustrophobic love, was exactly the opposite. People living together and sharing every single moment of the day on the same roof. And so in a kind of claustrophobic atmosphere. Also the aesthetics of empty city. So we got a lot of perspectives, and I selected here 3 short films, one related to Tokyo, another one United Kingdom, another one on Tunisia. And it is nice because you always have a kind of personal perspective. So it's not just an objective representation of how the city is looking like during lockdown, but it is also how the author is actually understanding this urban change and how this is affecting personal lives. Also, all the teachers went online last year, and so we got this film, The Classroom, regarding this teacher that is about to retire, but is forced to go online to continue to teach. And the other one that I selected is interesting because it is the Watchmaker. It is made quite entirely by using stock footage provided by Videvo. So in order to provide a global overview regarding what was happening in many cities during quarantine, by using videos that were available on this platform, the author was able to create a narrative by combining all these little pieces and creating also this very nice poetry, which is actually from a very well-known Italian poet, Franco Arminio. And then this one is also very interesting because it actually describes how the use of internet and our endless connection to the internet during confinement is also exposing us to a lot of information and a lot of fake news as well. If you remember, there were a lot of debates. There are still so many debates regarding the virus, how to be infected, what to do to get some relief, what to do to avoid any infection. And so this is depicting also how the world is changing our perception and how this massive information that we receive from the internet is also affecting our way to understand what's going on around us. And then the last one that I selected here, it is about, as I said, the recovery period. How do we see public space, social interaction after a lockdown, after this pandemic, when everything will be back to normal? And so this film is a reflection, actually, because it is somehow pessimistic because it is highlighting the fact that this virus is a turning point, and so that things will never be like they were before. So yes, everything is going to be all right. This is what many repeated last year, and many are still repeating those days that we are all still affected by the pandemic. I have put here the link to our website where there is the full list of all these films. The majority of them are still available. Some others are private because authors, after the competition, decided to lock, and so they are not accessible. But the majority are still available, and so if you are interested to watch these short films, you can go there and enjoy this overview from filmmakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luisa, Leandro, Teresa. So, Leandro, the word is yours.
Thank you, Luisa, for this presentation. And now we have in the program, as we described at the beginning, I think now is the turn of your students, right, Ivone? And I
Yes.
think it will be the time that they can explain their experience.
Yes, yes.
The confinement.
Yes. In fact, there are Iran students that are Katarina, Diego, and Ariuna. Would you mind to speak about your performance in a confinement? In the Confined Place? But then I ask you all, for instance, Joanna and Irina, to make some questions if you have, or some comments about what you have seen today, but also in your further participation. And then we will open the debate to all. But now, Catarina, Diego, and Ariuna, who want to speak? Catarina.
Yes, I can speak. So thank you, first of all, thank you for the invitation to be here and to participate in this project. It's very interesting. And it was a challenge for me because the first lockdown, it was something very strong and very stressful for all of us. And the opportunity to see the city in another way, and to see also my apartment, and to have time to see all these things, to take time to see. I think this helped me to deal with the confinement. And that's why that I'm very thankful for the opportunity to take my photos. So my experience, I can tell that for the confinement, the first thing that I felt, it was a kind of excitement. It was a new thing, a new experience. It was it was the fear also, and I was very excited about it. Now I'm staying at home. I have a lot of time. Everything is changed, and this is an experience that all the people is living. So it was very, I could share with other people. Everybody was calling each other to ask if everybody was all right. So it was very, very overwhelming. So, and after that period, I felt very a kind of loneliness, and because I'm living alone. And it was very weird not to go out, not to be with friends physically, not to meet the other people. And it was very, very sad. And I was...
Catarina, may I interrupt you to ask you one thing? I guess that when confinement began, when we wake up one day and we discovered that we were in a lockdown and we have never saw nothing like that. How do you feel? How do you felt? And then participating in a confinement place, did you feel more integrated in one community, knowing that people from other countries were producing photos and films and speaking on the web? If these works, these photos, these videos gave you the sensation that you were in the middle of something that were bigger than you?
I felt I was in a community. I felt that the world, it was smaller than I thought. And it was very interesting to exchange this perspective of the confinement place with the other people, with the other students, and to take these photos. And to take these photos, it was also an experience to see things that in my apartment, and to relate these things to the exterior, to the outdoors. So that it was very, very interesting to see the photos of the other people. And it was the same. I think that we were feeling the same feelings about the city, about the experience of the confinement.
And how do you feel now, 1 year after that experience? How do you feel when Teresa showed that photo, for instance, of the masks outside? Uh, are we in a different world, or it's something that is in the past? Or how do you feel? What is the sensation, the perception that when Teresa showed that photos of the masks, or when Luisa spoke about the hashtag everything is going to be all right, that we saw in Portugal in almost every windows with the rainbows, and we at home very angry because we know to go out, and people, we are going to be happy. And it's fine. And a retrospective of
Yes.
1 year.
Now these images are familiar to me. Now I feel something familiar. But if it was in the beginning, I would say that it was like a kind of sci-fi film. So it's unbelievable. But now, year past, I feel now it's the normal, but it's a different world, of course. But I feel something. It's familiar for me to see the masks, and to see all these images.
Okay.
Some kind of familiar. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you.
Ariuna, do you want to speak?
Yes,
Tell
yes.
us, what did you photograph, or what did you picture, and how was your vision of being at home? What have changed during this world, during this year, and also how this activity of a place help you to deal with this confined place that we were living?
Hi all. First of all, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this project. It was very interesting. As my colleague Katarina said, the pandemic time was not easy for many people, but I think it was a great time to stay alone and to think. It was an opportunity to revise our lives. Many things that were important in 5 months became unimportant because we stopped, and without parties, transports, cafes, concerts, I don't know. Yes, without being always in a company, we started to think. We started to ask ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to ask ourselves what do we want to do, or maybe we do something which we don't need to do or don't want to do. So, and in this case, the A Place project was very necessary because it helped us to look around and maybe to ask more questions. In my case, I started to look around some years ago when I was working a lot as a journalist, and once I remembered to celebrate the new year, and then I found myself in summer. So I lost spring, and I said, stop, you have to do something with that. But this project helped me to change the verb look for the verb make. It gave me an impulse, and I started to take pictures for this project firstly, and then when we finished, to put it online, to download it, I started to think, and then I started to make a documentary film after my participation in this project. So One more time, I just want to thank you. What was my sensation when I was looking at the photos of my colleagues on the platform? The main part of them are about the space, like a physical place. They are about emptiness. I think that it would be interesting to explore the eternal side of ourselves or of our minds during this pandemic time. The feelings, because the fear was not only one feeling we had. It was also a sense of freedom because we started to have more time to be alone, more time for thinking, for reading, for creating. It was also a sense of restart, of changing of priorities. All things are very important and all things are very impressive, so it would be interesting to find this sensitive side of this time. And I have a very small suggestion, which is I think it would be great to connect the sense of the physical space with the sense of the eternal space and make an immersive project based on the texts we can find on the A Place platform. And I think that there are a lot of abandoned spaces like fabrics or storehouses, which represent the mental condition of many people during the pandemic time. And I think it could be interesting to make something and to involve the students from the same countries that participated in this project, but the students who study theater or music or poetry or literature, I don't know, and to make something based on the work you did during this, the last year, 2020. And it could be a nice, not finish, but just an idea to continue this project, which is interesting. And one more time, thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.
Okay, so when the confinement started, I remember to listen to a podcast, and one day it was actually like this long version of a podcast that I listen to daily, and it was about this earthquake that happened in Alaska in the 60s. And it was basically the story of a woman who was a journalist, and she was driving her car. And while she was close to arrive to the city that she lived in Alaska, while in between a big masses of snow, the earthquake started, and it took her 5 minutes to understand what was going on while she was still driving, and then she had to suddenly stop. And the podcast was about this feeling of not knowing what is going on when the earth beneath your feet is moving, and you're feeling lost and feeling not really sure about the future and about what's happening, like the consequences of what's happening, and how to name the thing that's going on around you. And I remember that when I listened to that gave me the feeling that it was a really good metaphor for the feeling that I was having, and I think that was a collective feeling in the beginning of the confinement, which was not knowing how much it would take, and how serious it was, and what would be the consequences, and how to deal with the pandemic, and I mean how big that was, and how frightening it was, and everything that we went through. So I think being part of a community in which we were sort of reaching for sensitive answers to something that was hard to answer, like in other ways, and to also be able to reflect on my daily life, and to be able to take pictures, and to look at those images, to kind of understand and realize that it wasn't a science fiction, that was reality, that we were going through that, and that life was really changing, was a very important thing. So I think that's something that the project made possible, and being able to not only to look at reality through the lenses of a camera, but also to be able to share that and to see other people doing the same thing. So I think that was interesting, and a way to cope with the whole set of changes that we were going through.